All right. Well, we're going to have to do this now. Not the way I wanted it to happen, obviously. It had to be right at the very end. All right. Well, here we go. We're going to have to get involved a little bit here. I got to watch this Liverpool parade, the nonstop nonsense about the Klopp tour goes on.
It's not great, Brandon. It's not great.
Not great for us. Anyways, push on and carry on. 18th minute for the goal.
Capitulation at its finest would be the way that I would frame it.
A little bit. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to
slice it,
to push it. I mean, it's just ebbed and flowed. There's a lot of different places we can move around the match, but let's just get people in to start this as we roll and get the people in. I got to listen to Craig Burley talk as well. But I tell you what,
no, you don't. You don't have to listen to Craig Burley talk. You can stop that nonsense now. You can turn the TV off. You can turn off the stream, not ours, but you can turn off ESPN's, because it's going to be exactly what you expect in terms of Klopp and Liverpool, with a bunch of youngsters and a makeshift lineup, non-first choice team players getting the one over on Chelsea yet again in a cup final and advancing to put a trophy, the one of 4 that Klopp is potentially projected to win, has been achieved, and is just an utter disappointment for Chelsea supporters in a game where Chelsea had enough chances to get it done. Chelsea had enough opportunity on the day to do it. Chelsea had better XG, had better shots, and continue to see the exact same problems replicate again and again and again that we've seen all season, that we just don't have enough quality in the right moments to be able to take advantage of it. And Liverpool didn't need much more than the other chance at the end for Virgil van Dijk again to just not get the second one ruled off.
Yeah, definitely rode our luck in that one throughout the entire match. And it was just at some point we had to do something, and we didn't. We just let everything else come to them and didn't find a way to make it happen. All right, let's see. We've got some more in as people rolling in. Surprisingly positive in the comments so far, minus the embarrassing.
I don't know. I actually don't generally feel this is like losing again in Wembley is not a positive. I mean, getting here to this day and scrapping towards a result is a very good thing. I think Pochettino did nail that right at the comments before the game, that effectively Chelsea had done a good job getting here, but ultimately needed to do the next thing. And we didn't get the next thing done. And I think there's some that you point to, players not taking their chances and not taking their opportunity. I think there's also substitutions that did not pan out, and you might have been okay with a couple of other changes. I did not feel like a complete effort from all of the players or the manager on the day, Nick. And so I know you're shaking your head, but yeah, this is not a good moment. This was you're going to be, I think, your one major opportunity to win something this season. And, I don't necessarily know if the FA Cup, we're going to, go into this Leeds match now on Wednesday, depleted, exhausted, and having to try to find and scratch back something from it.
I'm pretty embarrassed by that, guys. I don't know. I felt so good when we played City last week, how gutsy we were, how much energy the team showed. And they have simply not been able to string back-to-back performances together all season. I should have known that heading into this one. Liverpool played their B and C side today. There's no excuse for losing this game. I mean, just be very, very blunt about it. There's no excuse for losing this game. I felt horrible about it all week. I feel horrible about it now. And now we just have to sit in it. Now we have to sit in the disappointment and complete and utter failure of the team in this game. And there were 3 or 4 players who truly gave it all. I saw a ton of jogging by the rest of them. I saw a ton of lackadaisical challenges, tackles, mental switch offs. The tactical game plan was terrible, start to finish. And, there was no moment of quality from anyone on this side. And I think in our lifetime, there will not be a better opportunity to win a cup final than against a depleted B or C squad for Liverpool. And Chelsea simply just did not have enough to beat a B or C squad. And that's going to haunt us the rest of the season. I'm really, really worried about the rest of the season now.
I mean, I'm nowhere near as doom and gloom as you are on that situation. So we'll let you run that lane. But let's just take a second on the live stream, because we're gonna have a lot to break down on this. We just want to touch on some of the highlights throughout this match, and then we'll hit the questions. So stay with us real quick. And obviously, if you guys have comments in the live chat, throw it in there. After extra time, Chelsea with a 2.33 XG to Liverpool's 2.03. So in that sense, pretty even, right? The possession was 46% Chelsea, 54 Liverpool. And those are just top line stats, right? That just would say the balance was there. Chelsea had 19 shots with 9 on target to Liverpool's 24 shots with 11 on target. So we had 5 big chances. They had 1. So if you want to really kind of pencil in the area, I don't think, again, it's not the ability to create chances. It still comes down to the ability to finish those chances. How about this? Goalkeeper saves. Petrovic with 10, Kelleher with 9, each with a world-class save. There's no doubt about that. So if we want to talk about, Dan, kind of the first 0 to 10 minutes, I'll tell you what, Chelsea didn't show up for maybe the first 15 minutes. Very, very quiet start to this game. Don't know if it was nerves. Don't know if we were just trying to wait it out, but Chelsea were non-existent in the first 15.
Yeah, I mean, that tracks. I mean, we looked shaky to start, and we had 4 fouls, gave up 4 free kicks very early, and I think that probably gave this Liverpool side more confidence in the first stages of the game. But I think then within like the 10 to 20 range, you started to see a little bit more back and forth, Chelsea getting involved, getting the first corner of the game, getting into a point where we we're able to get some of the Robertson, Palmer back and forth that we would see a lot more of as we got into the later stages of the game. And yeah, it was there. It was there. Oh.
I think as the players get their medals, let's see if anyone pulls a Jose and throws it in the stands. We'll see if that plays out. Nick, from your perspective, right? We grew into it, I think, in the last 15, maybe 20 minutes to the half. Not saying a lot happened. We did get the goal that ended up being called offsides. I guess that was probably the best moment of the match where we hit them on a great counter.
Yeah, I mean, this was the moment. I'm still not convinced after seeing multiple replays and multiple angles of the VAR lines being drawn that they did that correctly. I thought that Jackson was onside when they played it, and Sterling was in the right place. It was a great pass across to him. I really did think that goal was good. But there are some people saying that Jackson was off. I don't think it was clear and obvious to rule it off, and that is the standard of VAR, that it's clear and obvious. If you look at where Nico's knee is in relation to, I believe that was Konate who was keeping him, in my opinion, onside. I don't see any difference there, like in where the positional stance is, and in baseball terms, the tie goes to the runner, right? So in any real sense, Liverpool would be pissed off if that wasn't given as well. So I just can't believe that was not a goal, to be candid. I thought it was a great pass into Nico and a great pass to Sterling for the goal.
They were always going to let it play, but he twitched. He was always going to call it off just to force a review.
Yeah.
And again, we're at Wembley. even Liam Toomey tweeted like, we didn't see anything. You had a camera at an angle trying to look at people running. It was very messy at best. And again, to your point, if it's not clear and obvious, let it play like they did. I did miss, and I want to go back to the Cole Palmer should have been goal as well a little bit earlier, where Keller made an unreal save. A lot of people are upset, and I think understandably that Raheem Sterling didn't get a shot off before that. But like Kelleher had no business making that save. Just got big, threw his arm out, and Palmer hit it into him. I was so just impressed by the save, but so frustrated that we didn't get that one either. And again, which is one of those big chances that we don't get. Other than that, though, Dan, I think it was, the referees, no cautions, was letting things play. Gakpo hit the post off a header, which is great. And then a little bit of shovey pushy at the end of halftime between Chilwell and Bradley, where Gakpo got involved as well.
And I mean, the Kavanaugh's display on the day, I think, from a Liverpool side, felt like Caicedo, people were saying Caicedo should have been sent off for his challenge. People were saying that Chilwell should have been on a second card already and come off for the back and forth with Bradley. I don't think it was the best officiating performance we've seen in a final. I also didn't think it was the worst. Like he was fine. You could argue that maybe the Caicedo one you could have adjudicated differently based upon the injury. Like that's tough in real time. But in general, he let them play for the most part, which I think is actually what a neutral fan and observer does want to see. I mean, we got VAR equaled out in the end, -1 for both teams. So I don't know. I don't feel aggrieved in any of the officiating at the end of it. So I'm happy with that, even though I'm not happy with the end result.
Understandably, right? But there was some momentum at the end of the first half, which I think felt better. We still were struggling to get it from our defensive or a midfield third into the attack. Raheem Sterling saw none of the ball, right? Even a little bit of Jackson not really getting involved in Palmer. So we really didn't see them at all in the first half. So in the second half, wanted to see a little bit more from this team. But I mean, Nick, coming out of the second half, it is a little bit more of the same. And it just seemed like Poch was trying to have us play very cautious. And I was talking to a buddy, a Liverpool friend, and I couldn't figure out, is it good for Chelsea the longer it stays 0-0, or should we try to have been a little bit more on the front foot? I couldn't really decide because it was hard to trust this young team.
We haven't started a period of play well very often this season. I think we started well against City last Saturday, but we were so lackadaisical in all 4 starts of periods of play. We looked on the back foot. We looked reactive. I will talk about the midfield at length today because it was so poor across the board. We couldn't get any control against Endo, which was crazy. But no, I mean, the team just has not started well. It's like they go and take a nap at halftime and then 10, 15 minutes later wake up and realize that they're in a fight, and it's just not good enough to start.
Well, the big flashpoint was obviously Van Dijk getting his first potential goal of the day, right? So getting the Endo foul, offsides, picked Colwill, freed up Van Dijk to run in front of Chilwell, and it obviously was an easy header for a player of that quality. Kavanagh gets sent to the monitor of all things and actually comes up with a very favorable decision for Chelsea. And I think we can all see how that was easy, but I can tell you the wider audience is definitely probably a little bit more split on that. But Dan, that again, feeling like we were down at that point and then getting the opportunity to come back is like, wait, how can we not take this and run for it? And I just don't know how much bigger of like a windfall you could receive than that. I mean, to go from conceding to leveled out, there's nothing better in a cup final like that.
Well, I do think there were a couple. It got feisty in the minutes after it was overturned, which was nice. There was a little bit of energy. There was a little bit of chippiness between the two sides, and so I think that response was good to see. I do think the bigger challenge was, wow, we make a sub, right? We bring Sterling off, and Kunku comes on. We start having a little bit, Gallagher gets a free kick, but it goes over. I mean, we get to, Disasi gets on a ball off a corner and knocks it skyward versus anywhere near the net. Like, it would have been good.
Just throw your body into it, man. Just throw your entire body into the goal. Hit it off your chest and go into the goal with the ball.
Without a doubt. So there was some up, and then the big one was Gallagher off the post. I mean, Nick, that all of a sudden Palmer started to find a little bit more rhythm on the right. He was getting some dangerous plays in. So it's like, okay, Gusto with a good delivery ahead of Nkunku. Now, we're late 75th minute, between 75, 85 minutes, but Connor hitting the post, it was just pierced right through me. It was so good. And it's just like, why can't we score? I think that was our fourth big chance of the game.
Yeah, that was the one that pretty much I started feeling terrible about the end of this, because that is such a good pass in, and Connor did everything he could to just redirect it, and it literally fizzes right back at him after hitting the post. I mean, that is so hard to do. I mean, it's really improbable that the ball would hit like kind of the inside of the post and fizz right back to you. But yeah, I mean, to end this game, we were pressing the absolute hell out of them. They looked really tired. We looked full of energy. We were making some key passes to get our players into great attacking positions. Cole Palmer was by far the best player on the pitch today, by far the best player. And we couldn't will the ball over the line for one goal. I mean, it is shambolic.
You had in the second half, we had 11 shots to 9, 4 shots on target to their 3. We had 6 of our shots go completely off target, and we had 3 big chances, of which we, of course, missed all of them. So again, I don't think it's a very complex analysis required. Our players just don't do good. Don't do a good job when they have the ball at their feet and they're anywhere near the goal. And that it continues to be the consistent problem. It has been a failure of recruiting to get someone better or get better players who can support that, because you also saw that, I think a downgrade from the, into Nkunku did not look good enough at times. Did get, I think, double marked, but like that was more coming from the fact that the move to Mudryk and the move to Madueke didn't pan out either.
100%. I would say the last 20 minutes, all over them, right? And they started to fade. We had our chances, again, creating a lot of XG at the end there, and that's where it really fell out, right? And it's just, we had some chances, made some interesting subs as well through this match, which I can go back, because just to touch on those, we're about to make some bigger they're taking some of the bigger conversations. So Nkunku came in for Sterling at the 67th minute, Mudryk for Jackson right at the 90th minute, and then in stoppage time, Madueke for Gallagher, which a lot of people I've even seen in the chat talking about the loss of energy without Gallagher there. Trevoh Chalobah came in for Chilwell in the 113th minute. Liverpool putting in even younger players than we have, which was a little bit interesting, I would say. But look, extra time, absolutely flat. It was the worst thing ever for us, and it was nothing that helped us. So I'm just going to push out of it. Jake, on the backside, you can tee up Poch here, because we're going to move into this one. There's a lot of chat a lot of conversation about Poch in the chat, Nick. I'm sorry. I'm fumbling over the words, still trying to take this all in. From your perspective, I know you said you were embarrassed. It's a huge disappointment, things like that on the day. Thoughts on Christian here saying Poch is a loser? That's tough.
I mean, I think that's a tough analysis. I think he got it mostly wrong today. The team just never clicked, and ultimately, we'll talk about the player performances, because I think that is ultimately those moments of class are the things that are missing here. But this changes his whole trajectory at Chelsea. Like, there's been this like timer on like, will he or won't he do it at Chelsea? And I think if he wins this today, even if he's playing a downtrodden Liverpool team or playing some youngsters, it completely changes his narrative because he's won a trophy at Chelsea. If the opposite happens, that did happen, it's hard to see a better opportunity for silverware in our near future. And, this team has been so up and down this year that I think he's probably going to have to do his best coaching job of his whole career to get them to finish the season strong, because I think it's going to be really, really tough to see it happen now.
Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a hard road back for him. I mean, this was the moment where you either build a bridge with the supporters and show them you understand what it means to be Chelsea. I mean, I think we saw a little bit of that in the press conference, even heading into the match, where he talked about the fact that, the refs and the officials were going to be out to give it away to Liverpool. And that is kind of the siege mentality that we've seen some of the best managers at Chelsea adopt, the us against the world type of view, and trying to instill that in this team. And it didn't come out today. It did not come out in the way we played. I think in general, we responded well throughout the majority of the match. Extra time was abysmal, unfortunately. And I don't know if he can do enough between now and the end of the season to build any confidence back with supporters to have a fruitful next season or multiple seasons with this club. I think if I were involved in the technical or operations side, I would be trying to figure out, like, is there an alternative out there? And I don't think, though, that excuses the recruitment that led to not having people who can't convert chances and giving him some of these players too. I think both things can be true. He did not do a good job managing the final, but we also do not have the players or a attacking players who are comfortable enough in front of goal to convert with any level of regularity, because we miss chances. And that is a problem. And that is a player personnel problem at this point in time, which goes back to technical and scouting challenges.
Well, it's been a problem for years, though, right? Like, this is something we've talked about a lot over the last couple of years on the podcast, is finishing undid a ton of managers here at Chelsea. Lack of finishing clear chances, lack of finishing in big games, in big moments. Dan and I were at the 150th FA Cup final against Liverpool 2 years ago, and Christian Pulisic had a number of good chances in that game, couldn't put them over the line, and we lost in pens. And, it's a similar feeling to what it is today. Chelsea used to own Wembley, and because we had clinical finishers at the end of the day, and there's not one in this squad that showed up today, unfortunately, with any sort of moment of class. I think Cole did everything he could as a facilitator to have those moments of magic, but wasn't played as a striker, and none of our other attackers had just that little bit of extra class to do it. Poch will feel a ton of pressure now. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I don't know if there's someone better out there who would take on this job, knowing the level of talent that we have and the youth and inexperience that exists. Maybe there is, but this game plan, playing for penalties, all that sort of stuff, did my head in. Like, we were fired out of the blocks against City last week, and we looked competent. We looked like a team. Today, they waited to get hurt, and I don't know why.
It's the same. It was the same response to how we handled the dying minutes of City. It's the same type of view where it was more reactive and trying to lock up. But the locking up shop with the players we have does not work. They're not. It's not like you're bringing Obi Mikel out there with the caliber of players we have to be a lockdown moment for 10, 15 minutes to shore things up. whether it was the City match or this match. And look, I think at a certain point, when you touch a hot stove, you need to learn. You're going to get burned, and we are not learning. We are not learning and progressing in that manner of who we're trusting in those moments when you have Mudryk and Madueke, and I get it, right? Like, you also have a bunch of tired players on the pitch, but they're so inconsistent. And I think Mudryk in particular had not played really any type of football recently. And to be the one you bring in, that is just wild. A lot of wild decisions here. I don't understand.
Well, look, and that's part of it. When you look at the bench, it was even younger than what we'd seen, right? And that is obviously, down to still having injuries, which I know everyone is only talking about Liverpool's injuries. Turns out we've had plenty of injuries ourselves. And I just see some of the comments here talking about, Poch hasn't built a team, right? Well, it's been a different starting 11 every single week. We're just starting to get a little bit of momentum. And I think for us, it's like we saw Carney. Now Carney's out again, right? Would have been great to have on the team. To have Mudryk and Madueke, who it seems like Poch has lost confidence in, and now he's being forced because of the situation to put in a Chalobah and players who don't defend or can just go flying in attack. It's a terrible situation. What I will say about a cup final is I don't need it to be pretty. And look, we've won many an ugly cup finals where we would have been on the other side of this 1-0 and would have been just fine with it. So that's my only pushback on this, is that it never had to be pretty. It's not the perfect Liverpool team, right? Thank God they weren't there. It only took one, right? It only took one chance on the day. We had 5 big chances and didn't score. To me, that's not a Poch problem. Do I agree with his subs and overtime and things like that? No, I don't. I would have left Connor on until he literally couldn't carry himself off the pitch, because that's how much he brings to the team. But like, we played them extremely tight, like throughout the entire match. It wasn't pretty. It was ugly at times. That you just had to throw your body in front of a shot, which they did a really good job of. And you just had to kind of punt and hope at times that we could do something to attack. Was not there at all. We were not able to take opportunities of what we had. I look at cup finals a little bit differently, and not like a domestic league where it's like we want to see consistently. Do whatever you want to get us across the line. We were that close. And again, a Virgil van Dijk header where Mudryk didn't attack the cross is the difference on the day. That sucks.
Well, so I think if you wanted to break it down, you could be upset at the players for not letting it go beyond the 90 minutes, right? Not taking their chances. And I think if you're trying to point fingers at the manager, you'd be very unhappy with how he set up the team and the side in extra time. Like, again, this is a collective problem. It is players and manager. It is not independently. They are all like, partially guilty for a crime or whatnot. So I don't know. I think that's the right view, is that you have plenty of situations where they're not showing up in moments. They're being inconsistent with their form of play. They're not making the right decision. And that shows up in the first, 90 minutes. And then I think with extra time, the game plan just was against really a U23 PL2 side. I mean, I think, Nick, that was my big issue, is that he brought on just as many young players as Chelsea had on the pitch at that point, and said, you know what, we're just going to try to will this one to the end. And that, to me, I think that's where I go back to this idea that a Chelsea manager has to have a killer instinct in those moments. And I don't think we're ever going to see that with Pochettino. That's where my concern is.
Yeah, I mean, their subs, like, were nobody and nothing. I mean,
Jayden Dan's 18 years old, wearing the number 76. James McConnell, 19 years old, wearing the number 53. And Bobby Clark, 19 years old, wearing the 42 shirt. Right? As someone put in our Discord, a bunch of linebackers running around.
Free safeties.
Yeah, I mean, it is inexcusable. And the other thing I would say about the extra time, when Connor missed the one-on-one with Kelleher where he tried to cut it back and curl it in with his right foot. Everybody's heads dropped at that point, and you could just sense that they were mentally beaten a little bit. And yeah, we created stuff after that, but it wasn't really that convincing. A lot of lackadaisical running out there, and that, part of the great Chelsea teams that we are all used to watching is this never say die mentality. And you just didn't see it out there today. You really didn't. It was, and I don't know if you can develop that. I don't know if enough tough losses will make a team will itself to victory in a big moment. I don't know how to do that because I'm not a football manager. But it just didn't seem like there was ever going to be a goal that went in today. And, especially to take someone like Connor off, that is like the heartbeat of your squad. And yeah,
I want to pause on Connor. So if there's a comment on Connor, you guys throw it up. We'll put it there. I loved Connor. I put Reece James on this kit. The next kit I'm getting is Connor Gallagher without a doubt. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the environment, the atmosphere, whatever the hell the term is.
Are you going to wait until he gets the contract extension?
Does not matter, honestly. I feel like I need a Gallagher kit in my collection just based on what he's done.
Do you think that's the signal the sporting directors are looking for to determine what they'll do with a contract?
I have sent an email, Dan, so don't worry. Our official viewpoint on Connor's contract has been filed with the club. Look, one of my favorite one was Connor bringing the energy. He blocked Endo's shot, threw himself into a tackle on Gomez, and then Konate gets cautioned on the handball because he was just slicing and dicing, right? And then there's another time that I was writing down like what Connor was doing, whether he was tackling back, right? Whether he was the one like putting forth the effort. So I'm going to put Cobham person there. Levi Colwell went on an amazing run as well on the left, where just the never die attitude. But Connor is the engine, because this is going to be the beginning of the conversation before we go into the midfield, Nick, is that Connor was the engine, the heartbeat of this team. And I think the commentary is one of the few things that got right in this match, that he did everything but score. Right?
Yeah, he did.
And he hit the post. So like comparative to everybody else, because I'll go ahead and put Austin's comment up here. Hey, we didn't even have a chance to score without what Connor did in the midfield to get it forward, Austin. So like, that's where I'm at. He's not an attacker. He's not a 10. He's not a striker.
Yeah. I mean, I thought in every other phase of the game, he was excellent, except in front of goal. I mean, gets very, very unlucky with the one off the post. Obviously that could go either way, but 3 or 4 chances where he just couldn't really get his foot around the ball, couldn't really lift it above the goalkeeper on the one-on-one. Just, you're probably seeing, because Chelsea have been so injured all year, there's been no midfield depth. You're probably seeing the 3 midfielders at their most energy spent in a game. And Connor's been the only one healthy of those 3 all season. He's played the most games of those 3. It just didn't look like he had it enough today. And that's a shame, because I thought he played well otherwise.
Here's the other thing. So you have Raheem Sterling, who has 0 shots. You have Nico Jackson, who has a single block shot. I don't love the fact that Connor Gallagher is taking a bunch of shots. That is emblematic of the problem, where you have attackers on the pitch who are not getting into positions where they're creating any type of scoring threat or opportunity. Like that is the problem. The problem is, Connor Gallagher should do better with his chances, but at the same time, we have attackers who aren't even registering a shot. That's not good.
That would be actually if you distill everything wrong with this team, is we don't have goal scorers, finishers, and Nkunku is supposed to be that. And even I said that, right? I predicted preseason, and Nkunku will be Chelsea's top scorer. Right now it's Cole Palmer. And Nkunku, when he came on, looks tired, looks not sharp, right? So that is an issue in itself, especially if we are expecting him to be the kind of proven top player in his prime, and we're still not even getting enough minutes out of him because of health and things like that. But Nick, Connor, which most people here, even though I'm seeing some Connor out comments, which I'm going to leave aside, the midfield. So Caicedo and Enzo, I'll let you pick where you want to go, but not a great day from the midfield. And what's even worse, poor Sam, CFC Central, in the preview pod said if there's one part of the pitch that Chelsea should win head-to-head no matter what, he said Liverpool cannot put together with the players they have available a better midfield than Chelsea, and it didn't come true on the day.
Yeah, Sam's going to have a lot of feedback on the preview for this one. But yeah, I mean, Enzo, I'm going to start with Enzo. I thought he was just awful today. I thought he was just awful. Lackadaisical, couldn't make a pass to save his life, chasing in the wrong spots, leaving huge gaps in midfield, could not work the ball inside to out. There were a couple of motions that Caicedo started that were a lot better than what Enzo was doing. It was shambolic from Enzo today. I think he watched just as much of the game as I did, and that's really saying something. So yeah, I just couldn't get over, we've seen him be so great in the last couple of matches. I couldn't get over how bad he was, and he was atrocious today. And for those who listen to the show, we regularly, we don't typically say that about our players. I thought he was the worst player on the pitch today.
Some of the stats around his day today, he had probably a season low 77% pass accuracy, which again, he's usually well into the 80s. He only had one key pass, 9 for 12 on long balls, which is good. One shot and was off target. He attempted one dribble, was not successful. Ground duels, where we saw him stick in against Man City quite a lot better. He's only 7 for 17 on his ground duels won. And the fact that he got into 17 duels and only came out with 7, I think the eye test backed that up. Ironically, he's 3 for 4 in aerial duels, right? He was never fouled. He had 3 clearances, a block shot, 2 interceptions, 7 tackles, dribbled past 5 times. Dan, take that and run with it.
Or run by Enzo, which is pretty easy to do.
That was well played.
That was nice. I think what was interesting is, you look at the fact that he lost possession 27 times. You look at Caicedo lost possession 8 times. Caicedo was obviously the deeper of the two on the right. Enzo was trying to find opportunities on the left. I don't think the matchup with Endo or McAllister really favored him much. I think he was struggling between the two of them. I think Caicedo had a pretty fine game. I think if I were ranking best performances on the pitch to worst performances, Petrovic is number 1 in terms of individual Chelsea performances today, just with some of the work that he did. And then I think it would be Cole Palmer, Caicedo, Gusto, and Colwell. And I don't then think that there's a lot of, good but not great performances, and then some just pretty unfortunate ones.
So Thurman saying right there, Connor is why Enzo is all alone, saying that he's leaving him. Obviously, there were big gaps. There's no doubt in the midfield. But again, what's confusing is that everything we kind of done left today, which was weird. But maybe again, Poch was saying because of Van Dijk and Konate, we actually need to pull them out and then send Connor through the middle. I'm not sure, right? And I'll let that sit. From the Caicedo stats, which is interesting. So he was 64 of 68 with 94% pass accuracy. I didn't feel that, but it's clear because it's numbers, it's stats. He was 11 for 15 on his ground duels won. That's what we expect from him, maybe even a little bit better. He was fouled 3 times, committed 3 fouls. Amy's saying lucky he didn't get a red. I think the neutral will say yes. Most other people say no. He didn't have any blocked shots, 4 interceptions. He was never dribbled past. But I think his heat map is just right in between our 18 and a half, right? He was just stuck there the whole time because again, we couldn't really get going at all with Caicedo. So, and I don't think Caicedo was a problem. I think it was the Enzo breaking down made it hard on Caicedo. And normally he would have had a tidy game, but the rest of the midfield was not there to support. Right. All right. Anyways, looking at some of the other things. So you guys all talked about Petrovic, but I think we can say the defense, bringing that team together. So if we look through the back line, the only thing I want to touch on real quick is just Gusto's Techers. Again, putting them on display. Decision-making wasn't as good as it was, I think, Dan, against City, right? Where he just kept it simple, defended hard. But again, he puts on a display. He's got no shortage of confidence. He had Luis Diaz on his side, which is obviously the harder of the two wingers.
Well, and when Gravenbench went off, right? Like, so go.
You gotta do that.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not.
Do it.
And when Gomez comes on, and then there's a little bit of a shift. I mean, in general, I think that side looked way more available in the first half, and kind of continued that, particularly in the later stages of the second half when Palmer was getting forward. And I think that you wanted to see Gusto in situations where there were some gambles on, you're going to get really far forward and you're going to be able to try to help out with the attack, but you are going to draw responsibility to get back extremely quickly when Diaz is there. And I think for the most part, he generally was okay in getting back. I mean, you did have 5 shots from Diaz on the day. So ultimately, like, that is, that's 5 of 24. But I mean, they weren't terribly dangerous, which, I mean, again, is if you want to get forward and you want to make space, you want to get into attacking positions, you do have to gamble somewhere on the pitch. And I was better that we were gambling on our right-hand side with Palmer and with Gusto than Chilwell and with Sterling.
Yeah, I mean, the left side didn't really add a whole lot today. Unfortunately, I didn't get that sense. Unfortunately, because you were running at Connor Bradley, who, I don't think really had himself a day either after his display in Anfield. So I would have thought that we would have attacked more down the left because Robertson was back for most of this game. I know he got subbed later on, but the right side was where all the action came from, and it did cause Liverpool to kind of collapse on that side, and we never really had the outlet on the other side to make them pay for that, right? I mean, even Chilwell, when he would get the ball in an advanced position, was just kind of average on the ball and kind of lost out on the ball. We didn't have one decent cross in from a corner either, or any sort of set piece. So, unfortunate, because if you're able to, stretch them on both sides, I think it would have caused their defense to gamble a little bit more than they really had to. And, I think that may have opened up some more opportunities for us.
I was looking at our average position today, and it's as you would expect. We are essentially 15 yards outside of our 18 and only about 10 yards in the attacking third, right? We're only 10 yards across half. We're not even technically in the attacking third. That was our average position today. And it was just a cluster, in the middle. I felt like we lost our width. We didn't get to use our outside backs to create overlaps. To your point, Nick, how many times do we usually have Chilwell creating a 2-on-1 situation out there? And it didn't happen today. We weren't able to leverage the things we did. And I think it was Grant posted as well as about how many misplaced passes did we have. It was a sloppy day from that perspective. And until kind of like the press slowed from Liverpool in the second half, we didn't really have much. I mean, I was looking across my notes, just kind of my running timeline of notes, and it was just kind of like, yeah, Chelsea not doing anything. All right, now it's kind of 50-50. Everyone's kind of bored. All right, now Chelsea has the advantage. And we didn't take, advantage of that when we could. And it was frustrating on the day. So over and out on this one. We do have to just touch on the fact that this plays right into the Klopp farewell tour. Can you believe, Nick, that the announcers on ESPN in the US said that this is actually one of his most impressive achievements as manager because of the injuries and the things he's had to deal with leading up into this match. Not the Premier League, not the Champions League, a Carabao Cup final. That's one of his best achievements.
I mean, they were going to say that regardless of the result. Even if they would have lost, they would have hailed him as a wizard, because we just simply didn't show up, and that really sucks. I mean, you can be mad about the Klopp narrative, but we just made that worse for everybody now through the rest of the season. I mean, Chelsea had an opportunity today to shut down the Kloppaganda machine, and that was not mine, by the way. Someone else said that, and I thought it was clever, so I just used it. And we just didn't. I think that really sucks for 1,000 reasons. I'm not going to miss seeing that detractable jaw on the touchline, thing that moves independently from all other parts of the jaw and head. So, but we have ourselves to blame on that. I can't blame the media for hailing him for winning another trophy on his way out when we didn't stop him from doing it. The media is not the problem in this regard.
No. And it's ultimately I have friends who are Arsenal supporters, who are City supporters, who were very excited for us today to shut down Liverpool. I mean, that is how you know that the Kloppaganda is working appropriately, when you have supporters of clubs that generally don't like your team really excited about the possibility that you could do something to spoil the 4-trophy last dance campaign of Klopp, and you didn't get it done. So we're sorry. We're sorry to the footballing community that Chelsea didn't get it done. On behalf of Mauricio Pochettino, of Win Stanley, Stewart, of Todd Bowley and Bedad Ibali, sorry, we didn't get it done today.
All right, let's run through some of the questions as they come in. If you have them, let's keep it going. Amy says, why take Gallagher off? Look, I said it in Discord. Again, if you want to know where we're hanging out during the match, I was in Discord chatting up, and that was our biggest question. I mean, Dan, from your perspective, I know he was probably a little bit leggy, but who came on for Connor as well? Was it...
That was the Madueke.
Madueke came in, yeah. So now you're down to a midfield 2, unless Palmer takes over that 10 spot, most likely, and then Madueke went out to the right.
I disagree with it wholeheartedly, but I know he was tired, right? But like at the 97th minute, you're not that much further away. You're not that much further away, and you're still getting into positions where you potentially are going to shoot. You might not score, but you're at least getting into shooting positions. So I don't know. I wouldn't have taken him off. I actually think Trev Chalobah coming in earlier would have been an interesting one. But I mean, Alfie Gilchrist coming on. The only other sub that you might have wanted to see is a player who wasn't available, which was Carney Chukwuemeka as some type of a midfield attacking option, but he's not available. That was it. I mean, even when you look at our list of injured players, who did you want to have on the bench to come in? I mean, Thiago Silva, if you wanted to go to a back 3 and push someone up. If you wanted, Reece James is the only one in my mind of that list where it's like, I would have wanted this player. Everyone else, you had a first choice option, and Pochettino and Klopp did not. So
I know, and that's it. Trent Alexander-Arnold's out as well, right? And then we both were missing, top players for both sides that normally would have started, but it just hard to right before Connor got subbed, he tracked back and broke up, a Liverpool attack as well. So it was a little bit tough. Zach says, what does Nkunku really offer that Jackson doesn't? He has no pace or will going forward.
I don't agree with that, but I think unfortunately, he has not looked very good in substitute appearances. He, didn't look really purposeful today when he came on. I love the way that Jackson was playing earlier in the game. I thought that he was doing a tremendous job. He was really bothering Konate for pace, which is really hard to do. Konate is an extraordinary athlete who has all of the tools in his tool belt to keep an attacker at bay. And Jackson was giving him a little bit of hell, and that was, nice to see. I would have liked to see him play together, but I think the gamble that Poch took in that regard was, Jackson getting a little leggy and what that might mean. But I would have been intrigued to see kind of what would happen there, though, because Nkunku has looked kind of aimless when he's come on recently, and I think he might be a player that just needs to start a game to get the feel for it rather than coming off the bench.
I mean, that was effectively when he came back from injury in for Leipzig. Like, he took time to get back and start to develop some type of consistency. I mean, it was 20, 25, 30-minute subs. I think it was another like almost 8 or 9 game run before he started scoring goals again. And so it is a player on a long-term contract who does and has shown a capacity to score goals in other systems and in other leagues. And so I think you have to feel hopeful that there's going to be a breakthrough moment there. But yeah, at this moment, it doesn't feel great from where he's at right now.
Kadar says, how does this loss affect the long-term project? Are these players good enough? Is the manager good enough? Look, this is going to be the conversation the rest of the season, right? How do you respond to this? Can the Poch still get something out of players this season, right? Will the players be able to take this loss and turn it into something, or is it going to be more malaise? This is the question with the young group, right? It was getting to Wembley enough for them to use that as confidence. I don't know. And I was looking at our next matches as well, just kind of see like, okay, what are we going to do next? Well, you've got Leeds United in the FA Cup 5th round. The best thing we can do is respond by advancing in the FA Cup. Then you've got Brentford, Newcastle, Arsenal, and Burnley to wrap up the month of March. Look, it's a decent month, right? Newcastle are down a little bit. Arsenal obviously can be the hard one, but I think we're going to find out really quick, gentlemen, where this team is at for the rest of the season. Nick, I think we've already gotten your take on that, though.
It's going to be hard. I mean, this, unfortunately, with a team this young, the highs are high and the lows are low. And I think, whereas previous Chelsea teams would have said, screw this, we're going to come back out and win the FA Cup now and really show everybody. I don't know if this team has that or not, and that's not me being overly negative. We just haven't seen it. And so I think if you win this today, you have that to reflect back on, to hold on to say, oh, we've done this before in a challenging environment. This is now 6 cup finals in a row that we've lost. It's fucking crazy to say that, but they have to show something. And honestly, if I were a player looking at this situation right now, I see a huge opportunity to impress through the end of the year. And maybe they will, maybe they won't, but it's going to be a huge, huge job. And I think it's going to be incredibly difficult.
I think it goes broader than just, is the manager good enough, or are the players good enough? I mean, I think we have gotten a couple of players that you would say, hey, I'm excited that they're a part of Chelsea's next 5 to 10 years, in Cole Palmer and Petrovic, who are 2 of the players I think should be able to hold their head pretty high after today's match. But I think if I am the owners and trying to assess what's going on, and I wanted to procure a team, and I'm in here for 10 years, and I want this to continue to improve over that 10-year period, I would assess at the top to bottom level, did my sporting directors, or the people that I've empowered to select a manager, to help recruit players, to structure our contracts, did we get all of that right? And also looking at ourselves and saying, are we a part of the problem too? And what do we need to do? Because I think everyone is up for a question at the end of the season. I think that is the sporting directors. I think that is the manager. And I think that is many of the players, because I think we would look at a couple of these players and say, they are not starting caliber for a side that is serious about trying to win the Premier League. That they are not serious players for wanting to go out and get back into Europe and be competitive in Europe. Like I don't know, is the manager the right manager to go do that too? We've seen some players get better, some players have gotten worse. We've seen good decisions in some games, bad decisions in others, and I think this is the onus now on the owners to take accountability and responsibility for who they've put in charge, who they've empowered, who we've hired, and who we've gone out and acquired. It is a total top to bottom assessment required. And I think you have to look at it warts and all. And there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be unpleasant to look at here. And that is unfortunately where Chelsea are at. So you have to be very honest about it and make very ruthless decisions. And we've had managers and owners in the past who have made those decisions, but I don't necessarily know or do not have the confidence yet that we have an ownership group that is going to be comfortable doing those things.
I appreciate you bridging that. That's where I'm at, right? I think there's a lot of blame for players. There's a lot of blame for Poch, but at the end of the day, they didn't assemble the team, right? Poch did know what he's walking into to a certain extent. We didn't sign anyone in January, did we? We took a window off after Todd and Badad really going crazy in their first couple of transfer windows. So I think that it's a tough learning curve for the leaders, but the Win Stanley and Stewart and Joe Shields triumvirate is not delivering the way we would have wanted it to. And unfortunately, we set ourselves up, right, to be the £1 billion boys that Todd has spent. Now, first of all, that's over multiple seasons. It's over multiple transfer windows. So, and we've sold pretty well over that time. So I hate when I see those things, but even Squawka hit us with it. Unfortunately, it's something that needs to get figured out. And I don't know who at the top or towards the top is going to make a tough decision, but a tough decision personnel wise needs to happen. And this is my own little gripe, is that we hired yet another Brighton person to come into Chelsea. So I guess that's our level. I don't know why they didn't just buy Brighton. That would have been cheaper, honestly, at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm most upset today about just the, missed opportunities leading to a huge missed opportunity. You just don't know what a win today would have done for this group of players, this team, the organization as a whole. I would anticipate that it would have been a huge lift, and it would have inspired people to achieve more than maybe we thought possible at the beginning of the year. And now we just won't know that, and I think that's a huge shame because, there are these sliding door moments that happen in every season, that happen within games specifically. And we're going to look back on some of the missed chances today as just a huge, huge, huge missed macro opportunity for the club. And it's not even that the Carabao Cup is, the end all be all. It's just winning something and having that back on the docket, like putting another trophy up in the cabinet that is already stocked full of trophies.
That's a good summation on the day. Dan, what about you? How are you kind of wrapping this one up as we feel what we feel and look ahead as Chelsea fans?
I think this is the slow march towards an end of the season with a lot of tough decisions to be made. And the question will be is, do we start making some of those tough decisions now? And do we start, I think we've made some of them actually. Like, look, I know Thiago Silva had to get injured to do it, but not playing Thiago Silva is a good decision for the end of the season, because in general, there is something brewing with Colwell and Disasi. Like, so that is a positive, right? Malo Gusto looks good. Like, there are players here who are capable and should be a part of Chelsea's future. There are potentially individuals within Chelsea's backroom who should be a part of it. There are probably many people involved in the talent side who have identified some of these players who should be involved in part of Chelsea's future. But you have to go out and win games. And if you're not winning, you need to make the decision quick to go decide what we're going to do next season. because I think it would be a very bad use of an investment to continue with the strategy that has not paid dividends for our VC and venture capital owners here, has not paid dividends for you yet.
100%. We'll see if the decisions come. But look, at the end of the day, we created more big chances than Liverpool. We just didn't score, right? I think we went toe to toe. I'm not going to blame the players on the defensive side for blowing it when the attackers definitely had the chances. That's where we need to improve. So I hope as we look ahead that Leeds is ideal next opponent right now. I don't know where they stand. Let me look real quick.
Well, they've been doing well. Yeah, they've been doing well.
Of course they have, right?
It's going to be a tough game Wednesday now.
Patrick Bamford coming back.
Yeah, you hate to love to see a former Blue come back, especially one that can score goals. So we'll see. Look, all of you that joined us on YouTube Live, thank you so much. Everybody else on the podcast, thank you for digging in and enjoying. Tons more content, as always, coming out this week. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to YouTube. We really appreciate it. Tough days, Chelsea fans, but we got to turn around. We got another one coming. Anyways, that's going to wrap. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.